Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and we finally have patch 8.3 announced by Ian Hazakosis. We have all the information you guys need to know in this video, talking about everything that's coming into patch 8.3. Before we dive into the fun content, we still don't know exactly when patch 8.3 should be arriving. I would guess a couple months from now. Maybe a month and a half, maybe 2, could be as long as 3. Pretty sure Blizzard will have a more definitive time, or at least a window for us, come BlizzCon. So that's going to be in about a month in November. But in this video, we're going to go over everything that is exciting about patch 8.3, and I might make separate videos at a later time talking about all these things in more detail. But this should just be a first look for everything that's coming in 8.3. So the patch itself, 8.3, is Visions of N'Zoth. N'Zoth, if you didn't remember, got released in patch 8.2. At the end of the Eternal Palace fight, when you defeat Azshara, N'Zoth still gets to escape his Titan prison. So he's going to be coming back and wreaking havoc everywhere. Some of the content we'll have in patch 8.3, we're going to start off with assaults. Assaults are going to be very similar to Legion assaults, kind of like the pre-Legion event where they would actually happen in vanilla zones for World of Warcraft. So some of the zones in Stormwind and near Orgrimmar, some of the base zones that you would think would never be invaded by demons were now invaded by a flurry of demons. So this is going to be similar in that aspect, but it's only going to be in few key locations. Where Blizzard decided to choose these assaults is any zone that has some sort of a Titan facility, a Titan forge, or some sort of a Titan structure. So we're going to places like Oldham as well as Pandaria, which have some sort of a titanic building somewhere within the zone if you play through the questline. Minions of N'Zoth are going to be attacking these areas, and you'll be able to see 2 versions of these worlds. You'll be able to see the normal version, but also you'll be able to dive into an alternative reality where there'll be a lot more tentacles and stuff, and you'll have to go into these realities and fight off enemies. We don't know the full details of what assaults are going to be like, but if I had to wager a guess, it's probably going to be the catch-up mechanisms for loot, maybe a great way to farm a little bit extra AP, and it's also going to feed us into the next piece of content that's called the Horrific Visions. Horrific Visions is another bit of feature coming into Visions of N'Zoth, and this one is going to be very much sought after. There's very little information and detail about this feature, but I'll try to explain to you guys the best that I can. Horrific Visions are going to be accessible after doing a couple of assaults. You'll do a couple of assaults, you'll get some sort of currency, and you'll use this currency to get into Horrific Visions. These are visions summoned by N'Zoth, and you get to venture inside of these visions for a challenging bit of content. This challenging bit of content is inspired by Mage Tower Legion artifact appearances. It won't be quite the same in terms of, just fighting one boss, but it'll be similar to that, combined a little bit with the Chromie event from Legion. So you'll be able to go into these horrific visions, venture as far as you can, and eventually you will be forced out of them. But whatever you collect inside of these horrific visions and however much progress you'll be able to do is going to allow you some sort of reward. And there will also be a system where you go back to the heart of Azeroth and actually can advance your character to stay inside of those visions just a little bit longer until eventually you might be able to work yourself to be able to kill the final boss. And presumably you will have some sort of a cosmetic thing as a reward towards the end. These horrific visions can be done as solo challenge, but also can be done with up to 5 people, and they are flexible. So if you have a friend or 2 friends that want to do some of those horrific visions together, you guys can do it as a 3-man group. Pretty sure there will be compositions that will make this a lot easier to run, and people might even start selling these for gold, kind of like how people do for Myth Pluses. But still, this feels like quite a bit of fun content. The fact that you can do it with other people and the rewards are the same no matter whether you do it solo or with others, I think it's kind of exciting. With the Horrific Visions, we're also going to be bringing back Wrathion, and Wrathion is going to start a questline, which we still know very little about, but remember Wrathion from Mr. Pandaria, how he had this whole Legendary Cloak questline? So, Legendary Cloaks apparently are coming back, which is weird because I thought we were done with Legendaries after Legion. But Wrathion is going to be allowing us a chance to create these cloaks, which eventually are going to be our Legendary Cloaks, that we'll be able to use inside of Horrific Visions to make the experience inside of it easier. For example, you won't build up as much insanity, and maybe you'll be able to fight certain mobs a lot easier with these cloaks. And these cloaks are supposed to be upgradable, and Blizzard themselves said that they might be used in the final raid when facing N'Zoth himself. So for any of you guys that are Mythic Raiders, this might be actually one of those pieces of content that is a must-do. But still, it's kind of cool that they added something very similar to like an artifact weapon, but it's a cloak, something you can build up over time. I think it's a pretty big meme to add legendary cloaks again, since Rathian had us do the same thing back in Pandaria. But if this is done right, this could be quite good. I'm not saying this is bad, and a lot of people are very fast to jump on a boat, say, oh, you know, I hated the grind back in Mr. Pandaria for my cloak. This could be done well, so I'm not gonna flame it until I get to actually see this bit of content. So potentially could be quite fun. We also get Neolotha, the Waking City. Neolotha is going to be a 12 boss raid, and yes, we'll actually be able to venture inside of Neolotha itself. I love everything about it. If you are a fan of Lovecraftian horrors, tentacles and stuff, but you also are a huge fan of like what looks like almost like alien structure, I think Neolotha has everything for you. I think it's a great envisioning of what the old god city might be. Some of the enemies in there look exciting, and I cannot wait to see what the bosses are going to be like. It's a 12 boss raid, so it's going to be quite a big raid. Very similar in size and maybe scope as BOD. We don't know how challenging this is going to be, but it does seem like this could potentially be the final raid of the expansion. So hopefully the final boss does drop a mount. However, if the final boss does not drop a mount, I'm pretty sure there's going to be another raid afterwards. We're also going to be getting a huge overhaul to rewards upgrades. Blizzard themselves and Ian Hazzikostas walked out on that stage in that video and said, hey, we've heard you. We know how much you guys hate Titan Forging. So we want to do a different system. Instead of embracing the system of Titan Forges, like the fact that N'Zoth is going after Titan structures, what if you had a different system instead of Titan Forging? We had some sort of an old god sinister type of system. That's all they said about it. We have no idea what this is going to look like. We have no idea what some kind of an old god forging is going to look like, what it's going to do to our gear. But they want to take away Titan Forging from the game. Blizzard themselves also in the video stated they want to keep the rewards equivalent to the challenge of the content. This means removing some, if not all, RNG out of the game when it comes to trying to get your best in slot pieces of loot. A lot of people have had an issue with the Titan Forge system. To me, I don't really care about Titan Forging, but I do want to see what the old god forging is going to look like. I do want to see what kind of twisted changes they give to gear. If a piece of loot has old god influences, how does that affect a piece of loot? And they say that that effect shouldn't change the fact that you're doing challenging content, getting the best loot. So getting a piece of loot with that god influence, the old god N'Zoth influence, should be interesting but not overpowered. Very interested to see what that's going to be. Of course, you also have new allied races. You got ourselves the Vulpera and Mechanomes. Vulpera, yes, they're going to be given to the Horde. And while it is weird to think about Fox people being added to the Horde, it is happening. They actually don't look that bad, and I feel like they potentially could be pretty cool. What I do find interesting is Mechanomes and Vulpera are both some of the shorter races that we have, besides the gnomes and the goblins. So instead of giving us like big, hurly, bulky races like the Kultirans and Zandalari who stand tall and strong, instead now we get the little boys. We got the Vulpera and Mechanomes. Yet to make a video on Vulpera and Mechanomes, what classes they'll be, what they'll look like, what their animations are going to be like, but I will get to that as soon as I can with a video for you guys whenever possible. We also have Heritage Armor finally being added in this patch 8.3, where it was actually promised to us in patch 8.2.5 with Goblin and Worgen model reworks. We are getting a Heritage Armor for Goblins and the Worgen. The Goblin one I thought at first like, oh, I don't really know how I feel about it, but it does fit. The goggles, the little rocket on the shoulder, it actually embodies what Goblins are like. To me, I think it's kind of cool. Might be worth making a Goblin. The Worgen, I love the top hat. I feel like that's what they needed. And they have a lot of gold and a lot of this royal colors to it. The females and the males both look really good in that gear. I think a lot of people will be hiding the shoulders, however, but still, I'm perfectly okay with it. I cannot wait to dress my Worgen in that top hat. Blizzard is also going to be doing a massive overhaul to the auction house. Now, I'm not someone who plays the auction house that often, but they are going to be changing the UI elements. For example, let's say you want to buy a bunch of herbs for some potions for your guild or maybe for yourself, but instead of going to the auction house, expect to see nice 20 stack herbs, whatever you need. You see a bunch of 1 stack listed over and over and over for pages, for pages, for pages. For some reason, people love listing things on the auction house as a 1 stack, and I'll just do it 20 times, 40 times. So the new changes to the auction house will help it to be a little bit faster in terms of processing all the buys and all the sells, but it'll also allow you to buy things in stacks even if they're not stacked themselves. The way that Ian explained it is, let's say there's an herb and somebody's selling it super cheap, but they have like 40 rows of 1 stack for it. You can just buy 20 of those, and the auction house will let you buy 20 of them in bulk. The person will still get the money, and you won't have to parse through, single stacks and scrolling down and going to the next page or none of that. You'll simply be able to figure out how much you need of that herb at this price, and you'll buy as many stacks of it as you wish. You'll also be able to favorite some of the items you commonly purchase. For example, for me, I raid a lot, so I need my flasks, I need my potions, and my crit food. I'll be able to add a favorite to the items I purchase regularly, so when it's time for me to resupply my bags full of raid materials, I can simply just go to the favorites and apply them in the auction house window and buy them. I'll be able to find them a lot easier instead of having to, copy and paste the name or whatever it is. So what Blizzard did with the in-game auction stuff is they basically took some of the conveniences that add-ons have been able to do for your auctioneering purposes and included them into the auction house window. They also gave it a nice new layout change. Hopefully it will be running as fast as they say they are, but it's a nice overhaul that looks like it'll be functionally better. And that's about everything we have for features of Visions of N'Zoth patch 8.3. There's going to be a lot for me in order to go through every single bit of update for the content. I still haven't even talked about Mythic Plus, new affix that'll be added. I want to make that a whole separate video. But this is going to be all the base features that we have for now. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about patch 8.3. Does it look exciting? Are you excited about, let's say, Valpera, the Mecha Gnomes, the Titan Forging being gone, the new assaults and horrific visions? I'll probably go into every one of those aspects in detail as a separate video in the next few days. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see all of you in the next one.